Have you ever told a story in English and just had that feeling that something was off? Like the pieces weren't quite clicking into place? Well, today we're going on a grammar rescue mission. We are taking a real story from an English learner, and we're going to fix it step by step so you can see exactly how to make your own stories so much clearer and way more powerful.
Okay, so let's take a look at our starting point. The basic idea is definitely there, a bike, a car, some kind of accident, but whoa, the details are pretty confusing. Crush another car? What does that really mean? And who rode off? It's a classic case of having all the right ideas but just needing the right words to connect everything.
But here's the good news. Every single one of these mistakes is super common, and more importantly, they are totally fixable. We're about to transform this jumble into a story that's clear and compelling. So let's get started.
All right, first things first, the big one. It's all about time. When you're telling stories about things that have already happened, that are finished, English is really strict about this. You've got to use the past simple tense. Think of it like a time machine that instantly zaps your listener back to the exact moment it all went down. So, last week I sell my bike becomes last week I sold my bike. Simple as that. Why? Because the action is over. It happened last week, it's done. Same thing for buy, it has to become bought. Now remember, even though you're telling the story right now, the events themselves are in the past. This is one of the biggest rules in English storytelling.
And this rule isn't just for positive statements, it applies to negatives too. It is so easy to fall into the trap of saying, I don't look when you're talking about the past, but the correct form is always didn't plus the basic verb. Didn't look, didn't call, didn't see. That one little word, didn't, does all the time travel work for you. Next up, let's look at the little guys, the small words that make a huge difference. Articles like a and the, and prepositions like in, on, and at. These are the tiny details that actually paint a sharp, clear picture for whoever's listening. Just look at how one tiny word can change everything. Its first time feels kind of vague, right? But when you add it's the first time, bam, it becomes specific. There's only one first time, right? Same deal with on parking, that's confusing, but in the parking lot instantly gives us a crystal clear location. These small words are all about making the image in the listener's head match the one in yours. Now, prepositions can feel totally random, I know, but there are patterns. Think of it this way. We tend to use in for bigger containers of time and space, like being in a city or something happening in April. We use on for surfaces and specific days, like being on the road or an event on Saturday. And then we use at for really precise points, like at 9 o'clock or at the entrance. And then, of course, there are those common phrases that don't always follow a neat little rule. You just kind of have to get a feel for them. For instance, we always spend money on something, not for it. You're interested in a topic, not about it. And you take a new step in your life. The more you see and hear these, the more natural they'll start to feel. Okay, let's get to the main event of the story, the accident. This part needs some pretty specific vocabulary and a really important distinction between two little words that cause a ton of confusion. Listen up, because this is a huge one. Don't have to and mustn't mean completely different things. Don't have to means there's no obligation. You can if you want, but you don't need to. Mustn't, on the other hand, means something is forbidden. It is a rule you cannot break. Oh, and by the way, the phrase don't must just doesn't exist in English. So that's an easy one to just throw out completely. In the original story, the word was crush. But think about it. To crush something is to squeeze it flat, like a soda can. When two vehicles hit each other, the word we're looking for is crash into. That's the specific vocabulary you need for an impact. So what do you call it when someone causes an accident and just takes off? Well, English has a specific legal phrase for this, to flee the scene. It's a set expression that sounds so much more precise and natural than just saying they ran away from the place. And here is a classic sound-alike trap. The scooter rider rode off. That's the past tense of ride off. It sounds almost exactly like wrote off, which is what an insurance company does when a car is so damaged it's not worth fixing. Same sound, totally different meanings. We are so close. Before we reveal the final, corrected story, let's just quickly polish two last pairs of words that are super easy to mix up but are really crucial for getting your point across. Let's look at notice versus pay attention. Think of notice as passive. It just sort of happens to you by chance.
You weren't looking for the scratch on the car, you just happened to see it. Pay attention, on the other hand, is active. It's a choice. You deliberately focus on something, like when you pay attention to your mirrors while you're driving.
And finally, save versus safe. Save is an action, a verb. You save money. Safe is a description, an adjective. An area is safe. See? That one little letter makes all the difference between an action and a state of being. All right, the rescue mission is officially complete. We've fixed the tense, we've clarified all the details, and we've chosen just the right words. Are you ready to hear the transformed story? Let's listen to how it sounds now.
Last week, I sold my old bike and bought a new one. It was the first time I spent so much money on a bike.
On Saturday, I was cycling in the city. I was in a parking lot when a scooter crashed into my new bike.
The rider didn't look where he was going. He hit my bike and then he just rode off. He fled the scene. I called an inspector. We didn't have to pay for the damage because the insurance covered it. See the difference? Wow. It's clear, it's logical, and it's so much easier to follow. A few small fixes really did make a world of difference. So there you have it, from broken to brilliant. We've seen how correcting just a few key things, the tense, the prepositions, the specific vocabulary, can completely transform a story. So now think about your own English. Which one of these fixes are you going to start using today to make your stories sound even better?